Meet the orchestra. The violin. Players with like instruments sit together in families. The violin belongs to the string family, along with the viola, the cello, and the big string bass. You play all of these with a bow or pluck them with your fingers. The violin is the smallest of the big string instruments. Its song can be as bright as laughter, light as air, soft as a whisper, or sad as a tear. The viola. As instruments get bigger, their voices get lower. The viola looks and sounds like a big brother to the violin. It has a deeper tone, reminding you of evening shadows, cloudy skies, and the color blue. You can't tuck a cello under your chin the way you do a viola or a violin. It is so big, you must rest it on the floor. The cello's rich, mellow voice speaks of deep feelings like joy and sadness. It can remind you of the calm beauty of a drifting swan and of the color purple. String bass. The string bass is the grandpapa of the string family. It is so tall that you must stand upon it on a high stool to play it. When bowed, its low notes moan and groan. When plucked, its booming sound helps other musicians to hear the beat. The flute belongs to the woodwind family. Along with the piccolo, oboe, bassoon, and clarinet, you blow into these instruments to play them. At one time, all of them were made of wood, and today the flute is often made of silver or even gold. To play the flute, you hold it sideways, tighten your lips, and blow across the air hole. With practice, you can trill like a bird or play slow, quivering notes as cool as a mountain stream. The piccolo. The piccolo, the little sister to the flute, loves attention and always gets it. This tiny flute is so shrill you can't help hearing it. Its high notes almost pierce your eardrums, yet everyone loves the piccolo because it has such a great sense of fun. The oboe. The oboe has a mouthpiece made of reed. The reed can be fussy and troublesome. Then it honks like a goose with a bad cold. But usually the oboe can be trusted. The oboe plays that single note to which the whole orchestra tunes just before the concert begins. Its voice may remind you of faraway castles at sunset, autumn leaves, and the sadness of saying goodbye to someone you love. The bassoon. The bassoon is like a large folded oboe. It also has a reed mouthpiece. Its voice, like its name, has a kind of loneliness, yet the bassoon can also be playful. It chats and chuckles with the other instruments. You often hear it chugging along like a tough little engine. Can't you almost see puffs of smoke coming out of the top? The clarinet. Here are two different clarinets. The straight one is nimble and quick. It tootles up and down the scale, even tripping over a note. Its cool tones melt in your ears just like ice cream melts in your mouth. This very long clarinet is bent at both ends so that it doesn't touch the floor when played. Its low, slow notes may remind you of clouds drifting across the moon or a snake swaying to a snake charmer's music. The French horn. Make way for the brass family, the powerhouse of the orchestra. Even when they play softly, you can sense a huge cat crouched to spring. The brass do not have reed mouthpieces. Your lips buzzing against the metal mouthpiece produce the sound. The tubes of the horns magnify it as a bullhorn magnifies an announcer's voice. The French horn is like a big, bright bell at the end of a long, thin tube. The tube is coiled, so the horn can be played with one hand on the valves and the other inside the bell. The hard inside softens the sound. Uncoiled, the French horn would reach all the way across a very large room, and someone would surely trip over it. The French horn has many voices. It can calm you with its gentle tones or thrill you with its gallant hunting call. The trumpet. The trumpet's shorter tube makes it look easier to play than some of the fancier brass, but is it? No, say the trumpeters, you must work just as hard to learn it. The trumpet's call is noble and exciting. It can remind you of flags flying, soldiers marching, and royal persons entering a great hall. The tuba. The tuba has a huge bell and a very long tube. Do you remember that the bigger strings have deeper voices? The same is true of the horns. The bigger ones make lower sounds. The tuba seldom carries a tune. It is more of a rhythm instrument. Its umpas help the brass to keep the beat, just as the thump of the bass does for the strings. Timpani, or kettle drums. The big kettle drums in the kitchen or percussion section of the orchestra. Everything that is beaten, banged, dinged, or pinged belongs there. Have you ever heard the orchestra rumble with the sound of distant thunder? Suddenly it explodes with a boom, boom, boom. That is the timpani. They look like big kettles sitting side by side. Each has a slightly different pitch. You beat rapidly from one to another, making the thunder crash and roll. Cymbals. The cymbals look like a pair of pot lids. When banged together, they crash with the fury of an electric storm. If the kettle drums give you the roll of thunder, the cymbals give you the flash of lightning. Hear them ring out just when the music reaches a peak of excitement. This is a proud moment for the whole orchestra. The piano. When you sit down at the piano, the black and white keys make your fingers want to dance. From the center, you can play them all, the high ones on your right and the low ones on your left. When you hear a murmur of notes burst into thundering chords, then fade into silence, it is probably the voice of the piano. When it's over, you may want to clap, or perhaps even cry. The conductor. Now meet the conductor. He is often called maestro, which means master of the orchestra. That is, he leads the musicians, or her, leads the musicians at all times. He does it mostly by talking with his hands. In his right hand, he holds a small stick, the baton. With it, he beats time. His left hand motions, you play now, be quick. Livelier, louder, softer. Ah, that's perfect. A raised eyebrow says, you're playing off key. The musicians have taken their places. The strings are by far the largest group of players, sit in front, almost filling the stage. The woodwinds sit close together at the center. The brass and percussion are in the back. The conductor strides on stage in front of the orchestra, raises his baton. Let the music start. The orchestra plays tonight. Now it's time to go home. Like the voices of their instruments, the musicians drift off into the night.